It's a statement win the Eagles were looking for, and it's a statement win they got, taking down the New York Jets 31-6. Welcome to the Postgame Show presented by Ricoh. Ike Reese alongside me, Amy Campbell. Ike, wow, what a showdown. A lot of good things to talk about for the Eagles in this one, but I felt like Oprah out here, like, you get a sack, you get a sack, you get a sack, 10 sacks. The Eagles defense was able to execute against the Jets, 7 different players. Brandon Graham, a career high 3. Let's just talk about this effort from the defensive perspective. What's jumping out to you off the bat?
Yeah, just a great job, I thought, of the defense really taking advantage of an offense with an inexperienced quarterback running it. Didn't know what type of game plan Adam Gase was going to have today, whether or not he would let him put the ball up numerous amount of times, or would they try to be a little more conservative and run. They got behind in the score, and you had to throw the ball, and I thought it was a great job of our defensive line really taking advantage of the lack of performance of that offensive line from the New York Jets.
Well, yeah, and you knew they were inexperienced at quarterback because Sam Darnold was out today, and of course the Eagles defense took advantage of it. Not just the offensive line, or not just the defensive line. And look, Orlando Scandrick, first game as an Eagle. Welcome back to Philadelphia. He's been back for a couple of days. First action in this Eagles defense. He has 2 strip sacks. One of them for a touchdown. He just took the ball away. What do you think he's feeling on a day like today?
Well, I'm sure he's probably very excited. I mean, you come back, you were on the streets after being in training camp with the Eagles, and you're sitting at home waiting on a phone call, and then he gets brought in, and then to be a part of the game plan. I'll tell you, I don't know how many nickel blitzes we've run this year, but certainly there haven't been any with Orlando Scandrick, so that was a great part of the game plan from Jim Schwartz to have Orlando Scandrick coming in off the edge, bringing that extra pressure on this young quarterback in Luke Falk. And then with the second strip, I love how Orlando Scandrick, he was picked up in the protection, but he did a nice job of defeating that running back or the tight end to get to that sack. And then the great thing I love that he did, he went after the football. That's what the players are being taught today. It used to be get a big hit, try to knock the quarterback out of the game. We know you get penalized and fined for that in today's game. So today's players, they do a great job of trying to get that football. Orlando did it twice today. 2 sacks, 2 strip fumbles, was able to take that second one in for a touchdown.
Yeah, and it was in really exciting fashion, just kind of like, hey, okay, give me that. I'm going to the house. Let's also talk about Brandon Graham. He had 3 sacks today, which was a career high, but also a milestone. He now, with his 45.5 sacks, is 6th most in team history, and he almost had 4 today. He was just a 10th of a second too slow to have 4 sacks today. What kind of performance did you see from him?
Just another great performance, and the thing that I love is that these guys finally got rewarded for the pass rushes, right? We've been talking about getting quarterback pressures, getting quarterback hurries. It's one of the categories that this Eagles defense is up in the top echelon of the NFL. They just haven't been rewarded with sacks because quarterbacks tend to get the ball away a lot quicker. Today, you get an inexperienced guy back there, and now these guys got rewarded. Brandon Graham, who is one of the more relentless workers out there, does a great job of playing with tireless effort, and it was great to see him get 3 sacks, and he's creeping up that all-time sack list in franchise history. Obviously, he's a player that we all love and root for, and the fact that he's starting to get rewarded for that is good for him because he puts in a lot of work.
I don't think there's any person who has anything bad to say about Brandon Graham, and of course, we weren't sure if he was going to be back this year. Everybody happy for that all worked out, and he's having a really solid year as well. We talk about, look, just the impact that the Eagles defense was able to have against an inferior Jets offensive line. Still, 10 sacks when they only had 3 coming into this game altogether. So they're going to be rocketing up those NFL team sack numbers across the league on just a game like today, knowing, though, it was against one of the worst offensive lines in the league statistically. What do you take from that as a team to move forward?
I think it's a positive. I mean, it came into this week saying this is a week we can get healthy on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't mean from a physical standpoint. I mean from a statistical standpoint where we haven't seen the numbers up. They were the worst team in the league when it came to sacks, only 3 coming into this game. Well, you look at the top of that sack leaderboard with some of those teams, they've had the opportunity to play the teams like the Jets, the Miami Dolphins, Dolphins, the Washington Redskins, teams with poor offensive line, poor quarterback play. So just keep working hard. Eventually the numbers will bear itself out and it'll start to show up in the standings. This is the day where I'm pretty sure the defensive line were saying to themselves coming into the game, meet me at the quarterback.
Yeah.
And so you sort of have a little bit of a competition going on amongst those D linemen trying to get their chance to feed on this Jets offensive line. And it was just great to see that today. This is a defensive town. We love to see our defensive players have success. And today was one of those days where you knew the defense was going to have to lead the charge. I thought the Jets defense is a little bit better than it was given credit for coming in. That showed itself today as well against our offense. So I thought we were going to have to do a great job of getting turnovers, shortening the field for our offense. And this is a game where you can take this and build momentum, right? Get your confidence going. You got a tough 3-game road stretch coming up. So it was great they had a game like this before they start that 3-game stretch.
Yeah, and we'll continue to dissect all of that. But Eagles insider Dave Spadaro standing by from Lincoln Financial Field. Dave, we come into this one saying the Eagles need a statement win. They take down the Jets 31-6. A lot of really exciting moments in this one. How do you evaluate this win for the Eagles at first glance?
You know, I evaluate it pretty much the way everybody is. The Jets are as bad as advertised, particularly offensively. It was just good. Being around this team for so long, I know what this kind of game can do. You know, the pass rush for 4 weeks here has been a big source of concern, questions. And then to unleash it with 10 sacks, that kind of gets things going. And from a confidence standpoint, you really feel good about it. And the players over, Deshaun Hall comes in and gets a quarterback sack. Hassan Ridgeway sacks the quarterback. You know, Vinnie Curry and Brandon Graham dominating, Fletcher Cox dominating. So I think that I take away that those players can really build off of this kind of performance. I think a player like Orlando Scandrick comes in and makes 2 big plays, 2 strip sacks, returns the 1 strip sack for a touchdown. You find a role for somebody. You found out today that Orlando Scandrick can blitz the quarterback from that slot position and be effective and do it. So you kind of have another tool in your belt as far as Jim Schwartz is concerned. From the Eagles' offensive standpoint, I really don't read much at all into this. I thought it was a fairly sloppy performance. The Jets are better, as you said, Ike, than a lot of people thought coming in. Outstanding play at the safety position. The only thing I wanted today was to get a win and come out of it without an injury. We'll see what happens with Darren Sproles. My sense is that, it's going to be one of those injuries that you kind of wait and see with a player of that age. But otherwise, and it was a shame, too, because he had just moved into 5th place all time in the career yardage rankings. And then he goes out and gets hurt, and we'll see what happens with him. But, hey, for the most part, this is exactly what you want. I remember asking Rodney McLeod earlier in the week, what did that win in Green Bay do? He said it was a game that got us back on track. Well, if that's the case, this is just one of those games that it's a matter of fact, business-like, let's get out of here with a W and get ready for some real competition on the road.
Dave, it's great to see the defense play the way that they play today. I think most of us sort of anticipated they would have somewhat of a good day, and we would be more surprised if they didn't as opposed to the day they had. But the offense, I know they was going up against a little better Jets defense than people wanted to give them credit for. Greg Williams is a good defensive coordinator. The offense either fell asleep at some point in that first half or they still are struggling to sort of move the ball. Which do you think it was more of today when you look at how the offense sort of stalled at times in the first half?
You know, I think that football is such a game of emotions and intensity, and the Eagles came ramped up to go out to Green Bay and win that game. When you don't convert a 4th and 1, as the Eagles did not convert today, Carson Wentz sneak, it just tells me that that little extra edge wasn't there. I kind of chalk it up to that rather than being concerned about any X's and O's or personnel. I think the Eagles will have a completely different game plan and a completely different level of intensity next week in Minnesota. I am not worried about this Eagles offense. I am very interested to see how the Eagles next week perform against a Vikings offense that got on track against the Giants today, that has some excellent receivers in Thielen and Diggs. So to have this kind of performance from the likes of Craig James and Orlando Scandrick, that is encouraging. And maybe, just maybe, the Eagles get a cornerback back on the field this week because they're going to need to really come up with that same kind of defensive effort against the Minnesota Vikings.
Dave, we know that you need to get in that locker room and get the reaction from the players and get the vibe, so we'll let you get to that. And thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
All right, really good stuff there from Dave, as always, just on the field, feeling the vibe, seeing things that we can't see. Let's get to your takeaways. Let's start with number one. What jumped out to you from this one?
Well, the defense is going to be the story of the game, right, Amy? I mean, the fact that they came in to this game last in sacks with only 3, that's almost unheard of. Through 4 games, they only had 3 sacks.
Well, it's very uncharacteristic for this defense as well.
Right? And so to get 10 today, I think they set the tone. The Nate Gary interception, pick 6 for a touchdown, really allowed Jim Schwartz to start dialing up blitzes and heating up Luke Falk as a quarterback. And I just thought they really set the tone for what today was going to be like. They smothered this Jets offense, and they couldn't really get across the midfield until we turned the ball over from a muff punt in the second half. I thought the defense was just dominating today.
Yeah, the Jets run 55 offensive plays. They net 128 yards, really struggling in efficiency, 0 for 0 on goal to go. So that just kind of shows you how limited they were by what the Eagles were able to do to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you want. Like we talked about the road game stretch they have coming up. And coming off a game like they did against Green Bay, where Aaron Rodgers was able to sort of carve us up through the air, and we had to sort of play bend but don't break defense. This is a game where, from a confidence standpoint, you can just let your hair down and play fast. You know, you're not really worried about the ball being thrown over your head. You know everything's going to be thrown up in front of you. So it allowed these guys to play with a little bit more reckless abandon. And quite frankly, this is something you can take with you moving forward, because in order to be an opportunistic defense, you do have to play with a little bit of fearlessness, right? You can't be afraid to give up the big plays, playing conservative. So I like the way the mentality is sort of set right now. The big turnover to end that game on Thursday night against Green Bay, and then carrying it into today where they got more turnovers and sacks, it bodes well for us moving forward.
Yeah, you mentioned the Nate Gary interception, and also Rodney McLeod had an interception. So really the defense able to take the ball away, able to really make New York struggle in many different ways. What else for your second takeaway?
And then when you look at the offense, right, it's not a ton there, right? I mean, you know, Carson sort of did what he needed to do today from the quarterback position, from the running back position. Second game in a row that I think Jordan Howard is really starting to seize sort of that top back in this offense, right? We know that he and Miles Sanders are going to be used each week, both to be a part of the game plan. But if you look at when and where the carries come, you can tell that Jordan Howard is starting to gain the trust of the coaches. And from this standpoint of being able to use the whole playbook from a running game standpoint with him, catching the ball out of the backfield, tough in between the tackle runs, got another touchdown today. I believe that's his 5th touchdown in the last 4 games. So you love to see that. You love to have that big back. We're getting to the fall and winter portion of the schedule to have that big back that you can trust with the ball. Love what Jordan Howard did today.
Well, that was something the Eagles did have in 2017 that was kind of a hallmark of this team, something they lacked last year. So very exciting to see Howard kind of get going. Today, he has 13 carries for 62 yards, 1 touchdown, and like you said, his 5th touchdown. Let's get to takeaway number 3.
Then I got to go to the overall performance of the team, right? You're coming in against an inferior opponent like the New York Jets, and it's very easy to overlook this team. Dave talked about, you know, the level of energy that it can be difficult for a team to sustain when you're playing against an opponent like this, as opposed to an opponent like the Green Bay Packers. I still like the fact that the Eagles were able to keep that together for the most part, but there are still things they need to clean up, right? There are still things that need to be worked on. 9 penalties coming at critical junctures. I think that also played a part in why the offense stalled at times, right? And you can't have that where I think at one point we had a 3rd and 30 or something like that, and you just don't want to have that. That's a lack of concentration and focus. And for the 3rd week in a row, those penalties have sort of hampered the offense a little bit. They certainly need to get that cleaned up.
Yes, of course. Well, and on the plus side, they are able to score on their first possession of the game, their first drive.
It's been a while since we've done that.
It's been a while since we've seen that. They go up by more than 2 scores before before the halftime. So definitely some positives we'll continue to discuss. In the meantime, we have Merrill Reese and Mike Quick. I know they had a lot of fun up there calling this game. My favorite part of our show, Merrill Cam, coming at you now.
3rd and 9. Falk in the gun. 4 receivers, 3 left. Back goes Falk. He steps up. He's hit. He's down. Bringing him down is Brandon Graham. 2 hits and a sack for Brandon Graham. I formation. Wentz under center. He gives it off to Howard. Howard pushes, scrapes, and he's knocked into the end zone for a touchdown. This is what I meant when I talked about a team with nothing to lose. It's 4th and 1, and they're going for it. Under center is Falk. Do they try to go power run again? They don't. Falk rolls, now fires, and it's intercepted. Intercepted by Gary. Down the sideline goes Nathan Gary. Touchdown, Nathan Gary. He did it in Atlanta, and he does it again. Back goes Falk. He steps up. He is going deep middle. It is intercepted on the deflection by McLeod. McLeod at the 40, at the 45 at midfield. Running with the football down to the 42. Rodney McLeod did it on the deflection. Wentz takes the snap. Here comes the rush. He lets it go. Complete into the end zone. Touchdown, Zach Ertz. Wentz in the shotgun again. He backs up, looks, steps up, ducks under a rush, fires, leaping reception. Ertz across midfield at the 49.
Carson Wentz is a special quarterback, and you see that on full display on this particular play.
Back again goes Falk. He steps up. He bounces around. Too late. He's hit and he's brought down. Another sack. Brandon Graham, his 3rd of the game. 3 sacks for BG.
And he just overpowers that offensive line.
Back goes Crowder. He's looking. He's got all day. Now he starts to run, and he's hit, and he's flattened again, and the ball comes loose, and it's picked up by Skandrick. Skandrick at the 20, at the 15, at the 10, 5. Skandrick, touchdown, Eagles. 2nd of the day by the defense.
He ripped the football away from the quarterback, did Orlando Skandrick, and then he just scampered down the right sideline, runs away from the big offensive lineman and into the end zone.
I never thought I'd like a Dallas Cowboy.
It does not get better than that. As always, Fran Duffy joining us now to break down this game, analyze all of the X's and O's, the 12 personnel. Fran, we got this W. Sorry.
We got the W. That's all we asked for
12
at the end of the
personnel
show.
really should be like the name of this segment. That's what the Fran Duffy segment, the 12 personnel breakdown. All right, let's talk about some of the things that you're going to be excited to dive into this film and break down. What did you see from the Eagles
A
today?
sack or two, probably.
Yeah,
That's why I
just
guess I would be
two,
where I would start. I'm really
3 or
excited
4 or
to
10.
not have to discuss pressures versus sacks this week. Like, really, really happy to not have that discussion. But the Eagles defense, obviously, they found different ways to get after the quarterback. Whoever was behind center for the New York Jets, whether it was through the blitz, stunts, one-on-one matchups, they did it all in this game. Really excited to dig deep into that. My guess is that will be the topic of tomorrow's Eagle Eye in the Sky column. So we'll be breaking that down for sure. That's the first thing I'm excited to look at. You know, we saw some good things too where, and like you noted this, the pressure often it's hand in hand with the coverage. So yeah. I can't wait to see what the coverage looked like on the back end of some of those sacks. But then later in the show, I'm going to break down an interception by Rodney McLeod and how the pressure had something to do with that. So often those two are conjoined, and I thought that really showed up in this game.
So at first glance, one of the storylines coming into this was the cornerback injuries and the churning of the roster, the depth there. Of course, we saw Orlando Skandrick had a heck of a game. But at first glance, how would you evaluate how that group performed as a whole?
It's tough to say without going and watching the film. But look, clearly the results, they show themselves. I mean, right, you had so many sacks, not really a lot of big plays down the field, albeit against the Jets. They don't have the best supporting staff in the NFL. But ultimately, I think when you look at the performance of this game and the execution from this game, it's hard to have a complaint right now.
Yeah, you talked about the pressure, right? And today, we noticed that they were running a lot of line stunts.
Yep.
You mentioned that TE stunts, tackle ends, ET stunts. The benefit of doing that today versus trying to beat guys from a straight up or a head up standpoint.
Yeah, I think it's such a great way to kind of to break down man protection. Those stunts, the ways that you can, especially when they have substitutions in.
Yeah.
The communication isn't always great. So when you're asking those guys to pass people off, you have a rookie at right tackle, you've got a new player who was just acquired this summer in at guard. When you're asking those guys to come in and say, hey, work with this tackle, work with the center that you haven't worked with over the last few weeks, communication's paramount. By running all those stunts, you're putting a lot of stress on those guys in a communication standpoint. That's tough sledding for those guys up front.
So if we go hindsight a little bit on Eagles' game plan, some of the things that you broke down looking ahead to this matchup, now let's look back. How would you evaluate those things that you were watching in this game?
Well, Ike, you broke down the red zone defense and how the pressure, it was so important for them. It came up in this game once or twice. So I think to me, that was one of the big things that certainly came out. We focused in on guys like Jamison Crowder and things like that. Look, the pressure, rendered those pass threats null and void. I mean, they were not able to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand because whether they were tackled in the back for sacks or if the pressure was just there, the ball came out early. I mean, it was tough for them to get anything going from pass game standpoint.
Yeah, and the Eagles defense, fast flowing today, trust in their eyes, not a lot of complication to the Jets offense. So, it's kind of see ball, go attack ball. The only touchdown the Jets score is that they use the Eagles' aggressiveness against them, and they basically have to run that reverse where they get most of the guys fast flowing to the front side. Other than that, anything straight up the Jets ran just did not work today. I thought Jim Schwartz started to get into a little bit of a comfort zone. I mean, anytime he's dialing up slot blitzes, I've never seen that from a Jim Schwartz defense, right? I mean, Orlando Scandrick is in that backfield a couple times today.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so did he see things that he wanted to dial it up even more? So watching the Jets, what about the Jets offensive line sent that message? Like, hey, let's let them go.
I think Fran, talking about having pieces in there that don't really have a ton of experience of playing with each other is certainly a part of it. But the biggest part of it is the young quarterback.
Yep.
His eyes just haven't seen enough. And the more you start throwing those green jerseys and helmets in front of him, you want to make sure you speed up his thought process and make him either hold on to the football or get rid of it sooner than he wants to. And that's what you do to a young guy. Don't give him time to get comfortable back there. Make him think fast on his feet, cause confusion amongst that protection.
All right, we're going to let you finish that in a minute, but head coach Doug Pederson at the podium.
Is it nice to have one where you can breathe a little easier going into the fourth quarter? And
yeah, listen, like I told the guys after the game, I mean, it's obviously great to win in this league, and it's hard to win in this league, and there's many ways to win in this league. And, when you're in the fourth quarter with that type of lead, I mean, it's obviously it's nice to have. A lot of credit to the defense today to get us that lead. And you can breathe a little bit, at least halfway through the fourth quarter.
Do you think you guys played well today? I know the score says.
No.
What were the biggest issues when you saw?
Well, one, the penalties. I mean, you saw on offense how sort of average we played. I mean, we'd take, for instance, a first down run for 8 or 9, and we'd have a holding or a pass and have either give up a sack or holding, or the penalties just put us in too many long situations today. Second long, third and long. I mean, haven't looked at the stat book yet, but I bet you there was many of those were second long and third and long plays that it's hard to overcome in this league. And that's a good defense. No, don't get me wrong. That's a good defense. It's a good front. But no, we didn't play offensively. Didn't play good enough to we got to look at it and make corrections.
What were some of the issues you thought in terms of being able to throw the ball downfield?
Well, number one, again, good pass rush. I mean, it's a really good pass rush. They got good edge rushers, good tackles, we got edged a few times, but we got to look at the tape. We got to be hard and critical on ourselves. I got to look at it from my standpoint as a play caller and get better.
Were they playing? Were they consistently playing the same kind of coverages?
Yeah, he's a two deep guy, and there were variations of cover 2 at the snap. He brought a lot of edge pressure with the corners and safeties, and so it disrupts a little bit, keeps your backs in, things like that. And then he'll switch gears and play single high man and do the same thing. So it's a nice defense. It's a complex defense, but I thought we just didn't do enough, to overcome some of the mistakes that we made.
Given what the games, the stretch you've got coming up, the 3 on the road, a couple after that against really good teams, what do you and the group have to do to make sure that you knock off the sloppiness that you had today?
We just got to keep working. It starts when the players come back on Tuesday, and we get a chance to watch this tape. We get to make the corrections with the players and get ready for our next opponent. So, that's the only way we know how to do it. Is to come back ready to work this week.
In these past 4 games, were you ever concerned that pass rush wasn't going to come this year? That it was going to be a tough year generating?
No, I was never concerned with that. There's been a lot of talk about Fletch, and he's now coming into his own. He's feeling good and healthy, and you saw today, I think 10 sacks today. He got after them, and I didn't have any worries, moving forward.
So do you think that your team, considering how big a favorite you were, your team didn't focus, your team didn't play hard? If so, do you think that that's an issue?
Well, I know sometimes you can kind of get caught up in that, as players, as coaches. I mean, you get caught up in that, But again, in this league, it's hard to win, and we always focus on us and control what we can control, and we can't make the mistakes and expect to win, each week. This is a team sport, takes all three phases, and sometimes you can get caught up in it, but it's just a matter of just us focusing on us and eliminating the mistakes that we had today to get better and try to just again, like everybody says, try to just go 1-0 each week.
When you bring a guy back like Orlando, who had been with the team earlier, but he's thrown into a situation like that, did you talk to him at all this week about what would be expected of him, and how did you like to see him come out 2 sacks and a return for a touchdown?
Yeah, no, he understands. He's a veteran player. I didn't have to have any conversations with him, and he just kind of fit in and did exactly what the defense, what Jim dialed up today. It was great to see the effort that he had. He made some big plays today for us. Obviously, the touchdown there at the end of the game, and he'll get better each week.
You coached against him before. What makes him an effective nickel blitzer? Because he's played that role in the past.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He times up the blitzes. He sometimes these guys can kind of slither their way through, and get under blocks, and they're quick enough to bend and edge the corner, and this is who he is, and he's a great addition. I'm glad we were able to get him back.
How much is the offense missing Deshaun, and what are your expectations of when he can be back?
Well, obviously, one player can add value, but it's, again, on offense, it's 11 guys, and obviously the opportunity to maybe throw the ball a little bit deeper down the field can add with his speed, a veteran guy. But I thought today too, though, our receivers, did some good things when the ball went up. They did some nice things down the field. We were able to take advantage of some things. I thought the tight ends played well. We just got too many mistakes. Too many mistakes today. We got to clean up.
2 more plays.
What was the plan for Sidney Jones today?
Yeah, he was healthy enough to dress. He didn't. The only problem was he didn't take a lot of reps during the week, because we were trying to get him to today. He was there as a backup, corner DB, and we'll assess and see where he's at this next week.
Doug had Carson play, and are you concerned at all about him maybe holding the ball just a tick too long? He was bent back a couple of times today. He's been bent back 5 or 6 times this year. Is that maybe the next step in his maturation process? I thought overall he handled things well. Obviously, until I go back and look at it tomorrow, but. We got to do a better job with protection. We got to understand, with the quarterback position too, that it's okay to either check it down or throw it away from time to time. Just understand that's kind of been what we've done, leading up to this game. But I thought he played tough. He played tough, and he did the things we asked him to do today. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Coach Pederson with his thoughts after this one, really focusing on the mistakes that this team made. And yeah, I mean, there were some of those, mostly on the offensive side of the ball. What did you take away from Coach's press conference? We'll start with you, Fran.
I mean, that's the way to handle it, right?
Yes.
Is when you're coming out of that kind of a game, you don't want to say, "Oh man, great job, guys!" Like, all right, now let's go beat them this past. You have to harp in on the negative and say, look, this was not a perfect game. We could have done a lot better, especially on offense, and obviously that's where Doug's focus is. They certainly could have done better, so I absolutely am not shocked by that reaction.
Yeah, he's an offensive coach. Yeah, he wants his side of the football to play well as also. And when you look at a game like today, you're going to say to yourself, I need coaching points, right? Teaching points. Players, we can sometimes get a false sense of security when you play a game like this, and it's a little harder to go back and correct things. But on the offensive side of the ball, I guarantee you, Doug is looking at either drop passes, he's looking at primarily those penalties that came in critical situations that made them get behind the sticks and stall drives. You have a 12-play drive where you have 7+ minutes eaten up on the clock. you only get 3 points out of it. I guarantee you that didn't make the head coach happy there.
Or you are pitching a shutout and have a little bit of a muff punt situation happening down there as well. That was a little confusing, but to give the Jets their only points of the game.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of your former coach, like in Alabama when they lose a game, or they win a game 48-3, and they say, "Oh, coach, what'd you think after the game?" And he says, I really didn't want to give up those 3 points. Like you're always going to have, especially early in the season, they're preparing for those late season games. For this team to get where they want to go, which is obviously to be playing in February, all 3 sides of the ball have got to be. You can't give up those special teams turnovers. You can't have the mistakes you had on offense. So it doesn't shock me at all that Doug would feel that way, because that's the truth of it. You can't win in January having some of those mistakes.
A couple of notes for those of you watching us at home. You can send us your Facebook questions. We may answer them if they are suitable for a family show. So keep that in mind if you want them to make the show. Consider those types of things. Also, we are waiting for Carson Wentz's press conference, so we'll have that here for you in just a few minutes. Let's go back, friend, to our pregame keys to the game and evaluate that. Stay on schedule was your pregame key for the Eagles. How would you grade them on that?
Well, they were efficient in the red zone, so they did a good job in that area. Third down, I think really the big thing was I was shocked. I didn't even know that stat coming into the game, the Eagles had converted 15 straight third downs of 4 yards or less.
Wow.
That's crazy. But that goes to what we were talking about, where if you're really good on first and second down and you stay on schedule, and that was the key, was if you're able to stay on schedule, that makes those third downs a lot easier to be able to convert. Now, they weren't always that easy to convert today because they had some mistakes on first and second down. You had penalties, you had sacks, and it's tough to say what's behind those sacks without seeing the film. But ultimately, they weren't as
all right. We'll get back to that in a minute because Carson Wentz is ready to address the media. Take it away, QB1.
It's hard to win in this league, so pretty thrilled winning. I love winning, but like you said, offensively not our best. Something that we definitely need to clean up. We definitely got to be better. We got to stay ahead of the chains. We got to stay on the field. We know we can be better. We've shown it. We know we can, but we got to now execute it. But again, our defense played incredible. Put us in great situations. Gave us 14 points. So they played great. And again, that's a good defense, but we can be better offensively.
You see the other quarterback get fumbled like that. You got any feeling for that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for quarterbacks that got to play our defense, our D line. I see it in training camp. I see it. Fortunately, I'm wearing a red jersey, so they're not hitting me. But our D line's great, and they were able to get after him, and especially as we got up early, and they knew they had to pass. I mean, our D line played great.
Why wasn't the offense? You said it wasn't your best. You guys, or something they were doing?
Yeah, it's hard to say. We got to watch the tape, but first of all, they do a good job on defense. They play their cover two, their different looks. They bring some pressures, make it tough on you as an offense. But we had some penalties, we had just some miscues, miscommunication, some things that we got to just get ironed out. And some of the bigger things, stay ahead of the chains. We were in too many second and really longs, and those are tough to convert. So, like I said, offensively, we just got to be better.
You go from a very short amount of time, going from 1-2 to now 3-2. You have now 3 straight road games. Can you talk about where this team is at? 1 game plus past the quarter bowl.
Yeah, I mean, being 3-2, obviously, especially after the 1-2 start, is big for us. Especially heading into, we take it 1 week at a time, but we realize we're on the road 3 straight weeks now, and that's tough to do in this league. But we're gonna rally back and try and keep this train rolling.
Is it possibly offense kind of took its foot off the pedal a little bit when you got a lead in the way the defense was dominating Carson a little bit today?
I don't think so. I never want to make that excuse. There's things that we can just definitely execute and be better, especially when we do get up on teams and not try and keep letting them hang around. We want to put the pedal down there in those situations. So we got to be better on that.
Carson, how are the receivers doing over the last 2 or 3 weeks as far as getting open? And is there a noticeable effect without Deshaun? Are things different?
Yeah, I mean, the receivers are playing great. I feel extremely confident in those guys, and me and Nelly, for example, just missed those 2 today, and they had the ICT on the one. But I feel extremely confident in the guys that we have. Receivers, tight ends, the backs out of the backfield. I feel really good where we're at in the passing game. We just got to hit some of these plays that are there to be made.
So each of your knees took a little bit of a pliability test today.
Yeah.
How are you doing? And are those instances where you could get rid of the ball a little bit quicker and maybe not try to extend it quite so much?
Hard to say. Feel good though. I feel good. My body's fine. You know, I feel good coming out of it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if those are times. You know, I'm fighting to get rid of the ball, throw it away, and you know, but I do fortunately feel good.
Take us through that play when you had to chase down the high snap. You were looking at a pretty big loss there until you found Hollins.
I mean, at that point, it's just get the ball and try and throw it away. You know, and unfortunately, Mac was trailing the play, so we had a receiver there. Obviously, a situation you never want to be in, but we were able to salvage it and get in the end zone a couple plays later.
We sometimes take for granted when athletes do things that are remarkable. You ducked a sack today. I don't know if you remember. I think it was Williams. You ducked a sack with completion. Is that the kind of the balance you have to strike between, you know, living to fight another day and continuing to fight today?
I mean, without a doubt. I mean, that's something, you know, you always want to make a play for your team, especially on third down. And, you know, that fighter mentality that I'm not going to go down and I'm going to make a play is something that I'm always trying to juggle and balance. And, you know, we were able to stay on the field there, and that was a big pickup for us.
Now, it looked like you had allowed yourself a little bit of a smile after that play. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think someone said something, so I kind of chuckled. But, you know, we were able to make the play.
You had a chance to talk with Sam Darnold at midfield. How tough you think it was on him not to be able to play today? I know he was expected to play.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've been in his shoes to some extent. You know, be able to, you know, not be out there with your teammates when you kind of feel like you're maybe ready, type of thing. And you know, I do feel for him. You know, I'm confident that he'll be back out there making plays again soon enough. He's a great kid, great quarterback, so the future's bright for him, and excited for him to get back out there.
I made the jinx you, but you've only thrown 2 interceptions in 5 games. That's a pretty good ratio. It's like 1.1 or 1.2 or something like that. Is that something that you were focused on this year? Is it something you've been focused on since you got here?
You know, I feel like, I mean, every year since I've been here, you know, you want to take care of the football, and you know, I think we've been smarter with it offensively. You know, I think play calling and just trusting the receivers and everything that we've put in a lot of work through this offseason. I feel pretty good and pretty confident with what I'm seeing, with decisions I'm making, and guys making plays.
How important was it to get out to the good start there? Probably you guys have had trouble doing that. Touchdown the first possession.
Yeah, it's big. It's big, you know, coming out with a hot start, the way we were able to get in the end zone. And, you know, I think we had great field position to start. That always helps. You know, the defense came out swinging right away, made some great plays. And, you know, we were able to fast start. And, you know, the defense kept it going for us. Cool. Thank you, guys.
QB1 rocking the denim jacket. You guys, should we just all do that next week? I think maybe.
I don't know if our producers will be
Do
okay
you
with
own
that.
a denim jacket, Fran?
I mean, I can't confirm or deny if there's one in the back of the closet.
That would be
That's
amazing.
all I gotta say.
All right, let's get into our plays of the game, Fran. You can go first.
To me, it's a play that I'm going to break down a little bit later in the show, and that's going to be Rodney McLeod's interception. And the big reason why for me is that, as I mentioned, it was a great mix of rush and coverage coming together. And to me, when you play great defensive football, you're going to need both. And when you have big plays, one is going to impact the other. And to me, that was just a great example of it. You know, we've talked all season about, hey, you know, the sack totals haven't been there, but the pass rush is there, and they're impacting the quarterback. I know it hasn't resulted in sacks, but on that play, you saw it result in an interception. The sacks just happened to be there today to go along with those kinds of plays. But great to see that the pressure turned into a big turnover.
All right, what was the turning point for you?
Yeah, and the ball hawking started early, and it started with my man Nate Gary, the linebacker, right?
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah,
Every week you're picking a linebacker.
Hey, we got to give him some love here. That's back-to-back weeks, guys made plays. But Nate, that play, first of all, the decision of Adam Gase to go for it on 4th and 1 there, I was surprised with your young quarterback. Nate did a great job not getting caught up in that trash on the play-action fake. Le'Veon Bell out in the flats. That's where they wanted to go. That was his man in that coverage. Great job of breaking on that play. And then how about that? It's one thing for Nigel Bradham to catch a tip ball. We can all do that as linebackers. But to pluck that thing out of the air the way Nate Gary did.
College safety.
I was going to say, he showed you where he used to play in the back end of the defense in college. Nice play there, not only to catch the ball, but to run it in for a touchdown, really to give the Eagles that cushion. Once you go up 14-0 on that team, they become one-dimensional, and I think the floodgates open for the defense after that. That's when you started to see all the sacks start to pile up.
Yep.
Yeah, and in a defensive game, I am taking an offensive play as my play of the game, though it is connected to yours, Fran, so I think it kind of all goes together.
Okay.
The Zach Ertz touchdown after the Rodney McLeod interception. So we can give a nod to McLeod there, a nod to Zach Ertz, his first touchdown of the year, and of course that as time kind of is expiring, as they're going into halftime, there's always, you take the wind out of the other team's sails going into half when you can score right before the clock expires, and that put them up 21-0 heading into the second half. So to me, that was probably the biggest play on offense that we saw.
And surprisingly, Zach's first touchdown of the season.
Huh.
I mean, in week 5 of the season, he's the guy that's been their best receiver over the last 3 or 4 years. It just goes to show you how Carson is spreading the football around and getting the ball to other guys. Zach got his. He was leading the team in receptions, but got his first touchdown today.
And can I tell you what I loved about that play? I broke it down actually for the All-22 review. It'll be in the segment tomorrow morning. It was a great blitz pickup that the receiver saw pre-snap, pointed out to Carson Wentz. The offensive line changed the protection. Carson knew where to go with the football. It was a great team effort to get in the end zone. A really, really fun play.
All right, Fran, we are going to say goodbye to you for now, and we are going to send it back over to Mike Quick, who earlier this evening, a little bit ago, probably just like a few minutes, spoke with head coach Doug Pederson about this win. Here's Coach's thoughts after the game.
Coach, this felt like a statement win to me. How important is it to get this win before you venture out on this 3-game road trip?
Any time we can win in this league is big. It was great to see our defense really kind of solidify this victory today. We had the pick 6, we had the scoop and score at the end of the game, and really 10 sacks today. I mean, defense is very capable of doing. Offensively, we put drives together when we needed to. I thought the opening drive of the game was good, and then being able to do that later in the game. And then we ended up with field goal on one of them. So, there's plus then there's enough, I think, to look at from this film.
Right.
That we definitely have to get better. It's a win. It's a great win.
Yes.
But it's one of those that you just look at and kind of scratch your head and say, if we play like this in the future, against against a quality, maybe a playoff caliber type team, you're not gonna win these games.
Did you have any concern coming into this game? These guys listening all week about they're the better team and they should beat them going away. Did you have any concerns about them staying up for this game?
Yeah, sometimes you worry about that. They do listen to the outside sources in the media, and that's where we have to probably do a better job of blocking that out and just focus on us. And two, having, when you have that layoff like we did, it kind of knocks you out of a rhythm a little bit, and so we guard against that. I talk to the team about that and try to prepare them mentally to say, hey, it's about what we do and focus on us to get better.
You talked about your defense a little bit. They seem to be a little more aggressive, a little more blitzing, attacking that offense. Where does that come from? Is that just by this particular game, or is there something about this defense where you're going to be more aggressive?
Well, I think it's week to week. I think it's game plan to game plan. That was the game plan today. Obviously, to get after their quarterback and listen, they've got great skill and ability on offense. When you look at that with Robbie Anderson and Le'Veon, with Bell and then you get Crowder over there. I mean, they got some guys that can hurt you, and being able to put pressure on the quarterback like we did and can really disrupt some timing, as we know on the other side. I mean, they did the same thing to us. They got pressure on Carson, and it disrupted our passing game as well.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Coach, as they reflect on the Eagles' win over the Jets. Certainly some positives to build on and some things that Coach undoubtedly wants to clean up a little bit as the Eagles look to a 3-game road stretch coming up soon. On the other side of this break, we've got Fran Duffy's Ricoh review. It's the Rodney McLeod interception. He's going to break that down like only Fran can for us. That's on the other side of this break. Stay with us. You're watching the postgame show presented by Ricoh as we continue to dissect the Eagles' 31-6 win over the New York Jets. Fran Duffy has a breakdown of Rodney McLeod's interception in this week's Ricoh Review. Check it out.
All right, well, let's fast forward now to the big interception from Rodney McLeod late in the second quarter. And this is a fun play. There's a lot going on. And as always, the front and the coverage are tied together. You can't have great secondary play without good defensive line play. A lot of times you need good coverage play to have good defensive line play. Here's a great example of the two working together. Let's first look at the Eagles front. And what you're going to get is a 5-over-5 look from the Eagles defense on this play. You've got a defensive end in Derek Barnett, a defensive end sliding inside as Brandon Graham. You've got Fletcher Cox lined up as a nose tackle right over the center. There's Josh Sweat, and there's linebacker Nigel Bradham. 5-over-5 helps create some one-on-one matchups up front, but then also gives you the possibility and the threat to do all kinds of stuff from a game standpoint. You can run lots of different stunts with your defensive linemen. The offense has to account for any possibility there. So that's what you have from the Eagles. The guy that I want you to watch, and we'll just focus from this angle, is just going to be Fletcher Cox. And I'm going to leave him circled for now because first, I want to show you what they do on the back end in coverage. This is going to be a form of man coverage. It's called cover one robber. So you've got man coverage across the board. Rasul Douglas matched up here. You've got Orlando Scandrick. Here's Craig James. Here's Malcolm Jenkins. All right, so you've got man-to-man, and Nigel Bradham is going to be manned up on the running back, Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. So that leaves your two safeties. And what makes this cover one robber is you've got cover one, so a high safety. So that's going to be Rodney McLeod dropping into the deep middle of the field, and that makes Andrew Sendejo as your robber. And now usually that guy's going to drop right here into the intermediate area, but in this play, he's actually going to drop right here. Why? Because you've got a 3-receiver side. He's going to try and take away any kind of route concept from that side of the field. So you've got the deep safety. There's your middle of the field defender, man coverage across the board. And again, I want you to go back and I want you to watch Fletcher Cox because they are going to run a stunt here up front from the Eagles defense, and we're going to let this run. Watch how Fletcher is able to collapse the pocket against number 67, the right guard, Brian Winters. He puts him right into the lap of Luke Falk. He can't step into this throw, and the throw is going to be off target. He's trying to hit this deep in cut here against Craig James, but the ball is going to be high and behind the receiver. Craig James is able to get a hand on it. The ball tips up into the air, and Rodney McLeod is able to pick it off. And you see that the impact Fletcher Cox has on this throw allows the pass to be off target. Rodney McLeod picks it off, and the Eagles get a big turnover that results in a touchdown for the offense. Just an outstanding example of the rush impacting the coverage, and we see so often the coverage will impact the rush at times as well. So the Eagles come away with a big turnover late in the first half thanks to a big pressure from Fletcher Cox.
Great stuff, as always, there from Fran Duffy with the Ricoh Review, the Rodney McLeod interception. Ike, your take on that play from Rodney McLeod. His first interception of the season after, being out for a very long time. He just continues to get better every week.
Yeah, and Fran did a great job of breaking that down. The pressure up front, getting in the quarterback's face there by Fletcher Cox, really forcing a high throw. And then, as the secondary will tell you, man, once that ball is in the air and it's tipped, that's our ball. So great job there of the Eagles secondary being alert and taking advantage of an overthrow tip ball, because you get very few of those, and when you get an opportunity, you want to make sure you capitalize on it.
Yeah, a lot of big plays there from the Eagles defense in this one. On the other side of the break, we will have the Toyota Players of the Game nominees. Little secret for you, they're all on defense. Stay with us. now is your chance to vote for the Toyota Player of the Week. Go to PhiladelphiaEagles.com/Toyota Player of the Week to cast your vote and win a chance at a brand new Toyota. And of course, this week's Toyota Players of the Game nominees, no surprise there. Three defenders. Nate Gary with the INT pick 6. Your play of the game. Yes, Ike will always be choosing a linebacker for this category. Brandon Graham, of course, with his career day 3
that's
sacks.
Right. Yeah, you got 3 sacks. You got to kind of go with Brandon.
Pretty good stuff there. And hey, Orlando Scandrick.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, he's on the Eagles. In his first game as the Eagle, 2 strip sacks, takes 1 to the house. This is going to be an interesting vote. Some tough choices there. I don't know.
Can we give it to Jim Schwartz?
Jim Schwartz dialing up the defense as well. So we know who's getting your vote. I'm a little torn here. I think I might have to go with BG because of the milestone that he accomplished as well with those sacks. And, of course, a lot of sacks in this one. Eagles get a win before they head on a 3-game road trip.
Yeah.
That's a lot of weeks to be on the road. They have the Vikings next. The Vikings are now 3-2 after a win over the Giants today. Any initial thoughts on that matchup?
Got to play better than we did today, right? And you're going to be on the road in a hostile environment. It's going to be loud there. Haven't been back to Minnesota since we hoisted that Vince Lombardi trophy back in February of 2018. So I'm sure the guys are looking forward to getting up there. But in all seriousness, you want to make sure you clean up the minor things, the penalties, the things that put your offense behind the sticks. You love the fact that the defense is playing with a lot of confidence. And I know the Vikings won today versus the Giants. There's still a little doubt in that Vikings offense, right?
Yes.
Quarterback, the receivers.
We have heard some criticism from the receivers about the quarterback.
Right. So if you go up there and you're able to have some early success, maybe you get a little bickering going on that sideline. And so that's what you want. They have to get off to a fast start. It's probably be my number 1 key for all 3 of these road games, but especially up there in Minnesota. You want to try to take that crowd out of the game early. So let's carry the fast start we had today against the Jets. Let's take that into Minnesota.
I know the Vikings are going to be really eager to kind of get the taste out of their mouth from some previous matchups against the Eagles.
Well, they beat us last year.
Yeah.
we ought to be looking forward to, and that was a game that I bet the Eagles as players felt like they gave away, as opposed to the Vikings beat them last year.
Of course, but it's definitely the postseason in 2017 is going to probably haunt them maybe forever. I don't know if multiple wins against the Eagles are going to take that away, but of course we will be back here with the pregame show, the postgame show as we get ready for Minnesota. We will, like we are every week, the kickoff show presented by Exalto will be at 12:30 for a 1 p.m. kickoff, always 30 minutes before kickoff if you forget. And then we'll be right back here with the postgame show presented by Ricoh. In the meantime, let's go celebrate a good Eagles win. They're 3-2. We'll see you next week.